welcome back to another fun-filled day of math. How I miss you, how I miss seeing your smiling faces. And I've been doing this for, I don't know, over a month now, and it's still strange talking to a iPad versus talking to you. I'd much rather see your faces and talk to you, so I miss you. Today we are still working on decimals, and if you remember, decimals are just another way to write a fraction. Decimals and fractions both show part of a whole. Both can be less than 1. Okay, so it's just part of a whole. So if I only have one of something, it's going to be parts. It's going to be less than a whole. And they could show part of a group. I told you that division, fractions are fancy division problems, while the decimals are the answers to those fancy division problems. So they are very much related. All right, today we're going to compare decimals. So your learning target that we're going to be focusing on today is I can compare 2 decimals to hundredths by reasoning about their size. Now, to comparing decimals to hundredths, you remember yesterday we talked about place value, those places in a number. So you've been used to working with numbers on the left-hand side of the decimal. In fact, you never probably in kindergarten knew there was a decimal here. These are your whole numbers, and you know how to find ones, tens, hundreds. Well, now on the other side of the decimal, this is where it shows the parts. So these are the parts of a whole. These are the parts of a group. These are your whole numbers. Okay? And these also have place values. Do you remember what this one is? Tenths. Don't forget that THS. All right? And then what comes after tenths? Hundredths. Tenths, hundredths. So if I have 47 hundredths, I'm going to write that as a fraction as 47 hundredths. Okay? And I have 4 in the tenths place. I have a 7 in the hundredths place. Altogether, I have 47 hundredths. Okay? On this side, I have 410. So if I look at the whole number, I would have the entire number, I should say. I would have 410 and 47 hundredths. All right? Well, today we're going to compare decimals. We're going to compare what they look like. And you can do that 2 different ways. All right? The first way is if we were together, I would get out those base 10 blocks. You know, those little squares that we have. And then we have the strips of 10 and the flats of 100, those hundreds grids. We would use those. And we would take a look at 100 flat and we would see that there were 100 little parts all marked in there. But we're not together, and I'm not a very good artist. So I'm going to draw one to show you how it works. Hopefully watch the Pearson video first, because that kind of has the pictures on there to show you those base 10 blocks and how you can use those to figure out when you compare 2 decimals. The other way I'm going to show you is a little easier to do when you just have pen and paper, kind of like what we do now. And I'll tell you that way in just a minute. All right, but let's see, I have one little square out of my 100, and I have 1 strip. This is going to be 1/100th. This is going to be 1/10. Now, if you just look at the sizes, okay, these were base 10 blocks. I want you to picture in your mind those green little things that we use all the time. One little square, that's 1/100th. If you took one of those grids, all right, the flat squares, and you broke it up and I let you cut it, which of course I would never do, but if I did, one of those squares would be 1/100th. All right, 1 strip you know is a 10, but if we break it apart out of that 100, we're going to break it apart. It's going to be a part. It's going to be 1/10. So which is bigger? I mean, just by looking at it, you can tell 1/10 is bigger. Okay. If I were to do that with other strips, you can look just by the pictures. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to pause me, and you're going to look at those in division pages, and we're going to first start off on 641. 641, and I want you to take a look at number 7, and I want you to see if you can use those pictures to compare those 2 decimals. This is just one way to use decimals with those base 10 blocks. All right? So take a look at number 7 to see if you can figure out which one is greater. Your choices are 31/100ths and 29/100ths. So put me on pause, pull up those Pearson pages, take a look at number 7, and then come on back with me. Ready? Go. All right, so you were looking at number 7 and you were able to look. On the first one, on the left-hand side, you had 3 strips. 1, 2, 3. 3 strips filled in because if you look, there's a 3 in the tenths place. So we needed 3 of the long strips colored in. And then there's a 1 in the hundredths place. So there was one tiny little square up here colored in. All right, and that showed 31 hundredths. Then on the other side, on the second one, you had 29 hundredths. You had a 2 in the tenths place, so you had 2 long strips colored in. And then a 9 in the hundredths place, so you had 9 little squares on the next column. So which was more? 31 hundredths. You had more colored in. So we would say 31 hundredths is greater than 29 hundredths. Okay? One more I want you to take a look at. Look at number 8, the pictures on number 8. You're going to compare 44 hundredths and 22 hundredths. See if you can tell me which one's bigger. Ready? Go. All right, if you look at number 8, for 44 hundredths, we have 4 strips because we have 4 tenths. So we need 4 of those strips, those tenths. Okay? And then we have 4 hundredths, so then we have 4 little squares there. 22 hundredths, we have how many tenths? 2. So I have 2 strips, and then I have 2 hundredths. I have 2 other little squares. So which has more? Just by looking at the pictures, what is it? It's how 44 hundredths is more than 22 hundredths. Okay? But like I said, you're not going to always have those base 10 blocks, and it's going to be a nightmare to sit there and draw out a 100 grid to try to figure it out. So there has to be an easier way to do it, and there is, okay? But you have to think about your place value. Just like when we're comparing whole numbers, you're going to take it place value by place value, okay? So what you're going to do is take a look at your whole numbers. If your whole numbers are the same, well, then you're going to have to keep going. If they're different, if this was 5 and this was 7, boom, you're done. You know 7 holes is more than 5 holes. That one would be bigger. It wouldn't matter what the decimals are. But since they're the same, here we have zeros, you're going to have to take it place value by place value. All right, so we would start here. We would look at the tenths. Well, you're going to compare 4 tenths. Don't worry about the hundredths. We're going to ignore the hundredths right now. Okay? Compare 4 tenths and 2 tenths. Which is greater? 4 tenths or 2 tenths? 4 tenths. So that lets you know, hey, that's your number is greater. Boom, done and done. All right, take a look up here. If we go, our whole numbers are the same. They both have a 0. So now we compare our tenths, 3 and 2. Well, which is more, 3 tenths or 2 tenths? If you think about it as a fraction, if that's easier for you to think of it as a fraction, think of it as a fraction. Which is bigger, 3 tenths or 2 tenths? 3 tenths. So we know that 3 tenths here is going to be bigger than 2 tenths. That means 31 hundredths is more than 29 hundredths. So once again, it's this way, greater than here. So you can still take it by place value, place value, place value, place value. So let's take a look at one that doesn't have a picture on it. Let's do 56 hundredths, and I'm going to compare that with 72 hundredths. All right, pause me and see if you can figure out which one is larger, which is greater. Ready? Go. All right, so let's take a look and talk about it. All right, so we both have whole numbers, they're both zeros. So we have to go to which place? The tenths. So we go to the tenths, 5 and 7. All right. Which is greater, 5 tenths or 7 tenths? 7 tenths. So this is going to be greater. So we're going to say it with me, 56 hundredths is less than 72 hundredths. All right. Let's take a look at one that has some whole numbers with it. Let's see here. Let's do hundredths compared with 3 and 26 hundredths. All right, well, this is where we have to compare our whole numbers. Are our whole numbers the same? Yes. So they're the same, so then we have to go to our tenths. All right, so we're looking at our tenths now. We have 1/10 here and 2/10 here. Which is larger? 2/10. That means this is going to be greater than. So how do we say it? Practice saying it with me. Ready? 3 and 17 hundredths is less than 3 and 26 hundredths. Okay? So when you compare decimals, you need to look at your whole numbers first. If they're different, man, boom, that's easy. Figure out which whole number is greater. Not a problem. Let me give you one that looks a little different like that. All right, let's do first look at your whole number. What's my whole number on this side? 5. What's my whole number over here? 3. That's it, I'm done. Because I know right away that 5 wholes is more than 3 wholes. I don't have to worry about the other stuff that's written here. I know that 5 is bigger, so I can just say, boop, greater than. So read it with me. 5 and 7/10 is greater than 3 and 26 hundredths. Let's say that one more time. Read it with me. Ready? 5 and 7/10 is greater than 3 and 26 hundredths. There you go. All right, I want you to do a few for practice, and then when you meet me in small group, we will go over them together. Okay? Here are the ones that I want you to do. Are you ready? We are on page 641, so write these down on scrap paper. I want you to try numbers 12, 13, and 14. I'll say that again. 12, 13, and 14. Try those together, and we will go over those in small group, okay? Good work today. Remember our learning target, I can compare 2 decimals to the hundredths place. So we went tenths and hundredths. That's all we're worrying about in 5th grade. Next year, or in 4th grade. In 5th grade, next year, you will get the next one, which is thousands, but you don't have to worry about that for 4th grade. Tenths, hundredths, that's all I'm worried about. Okay? I love you. I will see you in small group in a little bit.